So welcome everyone. My name is Giulia Onorati and from Social IT, and welcome to the second info day of the first open call of the VITALISE project. We are registering this session, so in a few days it will be available on our YouTube channel. I don't know, maybe Edokimos, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Julia. Just to welcome everyone from my side too, and from behalf of the consortium. We are really happy that we reached this point where we can provide technical details on how you can apply, but also to give answers to any questions or concerns you may have. Just also to say that it's really important for us to understand your concerns, but because we are here in order to accommodate your needs. And when I say we, I mean both the technical partners, but also the living lab infrastructures. And also that we'll try to be as agile as possible, respecting, of course, the eligibility criteria to make the best for the researchers. As Julia said, this session will be recorded and will be available online so that other researchers that couldn't join today will be able to follow up with the updates. Thank you, Julia, and I wish you all to enjoy this session and to come up with many questions at the end so we can have a constructive dialogue, discussion.
Thank you, Edokimos. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, as probably many of you know, last Monday we held our first info day to illustrate the living labs that are involved in VITALISE and the joint research activities that they are conducting. So if you didn't have the chance to attend, you can find the slide on our website and all registration on our YouTube channel. So VITALISE is an Horizon 2020 project that aims to harmonize living lab procedures to facilitate and promote open research and innovation in the health and well-being domain. VITALISE grants free transnational access to external researchers to its 8 living labs for a total of 17 research infrastructures, where the researchers will have the chance to conduct their research studies, and they can also be granted with virtual access to the dataset they will collect and the datasets that are being collected within the joint research activities. The first open call for applying will be open till the end of April, the 30th of April. So you can find all the information about how to apply and about our infrastructures on the project website. There will be other 2 more open calls. One that will be open at the end of this year and the other during the summer of next year. So the focus of this presentation is to illustrate you the procedure for applying for transnational access and to show you the application toolkit for submitting your application. And as the Edokimos already said, at the end there will be a Q&A moment. So if you have any question, do not hesitate to write them in the chat, or at the end you can raise your hand and ask us directly. So as I was saying, within VITALISE, we have 8 living labs spread across Europe and even 1 living lab in Canada. All the living labs are currently working together in 3 joint research activities, and they are combining the experience and the expertise of the living labs, creating innovative study protocols within three different domains of the health and well-being research area, which are rehabilitation, transitional care, and everyday living environments. So during the first info days, the 8 living labs illustrated in detail these 3 joint research activities. So to give you some inspiration of what you can do within our living labs. But it's not mandatory to do the same kind of activities. The purpose was just to give you some more information on what we are already doing in case you might want to join some ongoing activities. But if you have your own research study that you want to submit, you are more than welcome to do so. So within this first open call, you can access our living lab through Transnational Access. And you can apply by yourself, or you can submit an application as a team of up to 5 researchers. So the Transnational Access can be done in 3 different ways, depending on the kind of research proposal that you want to submit. So it can be fully in person, so physically at the premises of the living lab. It can be partially remote, so you can decide to go. You can decide to come to the living lab for a certain period, and then go back home and access the living lab remotely, but taking advantage of all the services that are made available by the infrastructure. Or you can do the fully remote Transnational Access in case you don't need to be physically at the premises of the living lab. We estimated a period of access of 30 days, but you can submit an application requesting a shorter period or a longer period based on the research that you want to conduct. So for this first open call, there will be only the possibility to do the Transnational Access, while for the second and the third call, you will have also the opportunity to submit an application for the virtual access. That means that you will have remote access to the datasets that are being collected during the joint research activities. And you will be supported technically to access the data, but since the virtual access do not require to be physically at the premises of the living lab, there won't be any refund for that. And so about the refund, researchers that apply for the Transnational Access during the in-person Transnational Access, they will be reimbursed both for the traveling expenses and also for the subsistence and housing ones. So the maximum amount of expenses that are covered for traveling is 500 euros, while for housing and subsistence is 100 euros per day. Both the amount are per person. So each person of the team that will submit a research proposal will be refunded. And it's important to know that each living lab will apply its own rules and procedure for the reimbursement. So there could be also exceptions to this limit. And once your application will be approved, you will be put in contact with the research infrastructure leader to discuss the detail of your Transnational Access, including the expenses covered. So as I said, the 30th of April is the deadline for the submission of the application for the first call. There will be 2 other calls. The second one will be open between November and December, and it will allow both the Transnational and the virtual access during the summer 23. So from May to September, more or less. The third call will open between May and June 23 and will allow access between November 23 and January 24. At the moment, these are the expected dates. So if you are interested in being notified when the second or the third call will open, I suggest you to subscribe to the project newsletter on the website, on the VITALISE website, and to follow us on our social media. So back to the application procedure. Let's take a closer look at the timeline of the first open call. As you already know, the proposal submission was open at the beginning of March and will be open till the end of April. Then between May and July, we will evaluate the application received based on eligibility and feasibility criteria, and also based on the scientific soundness of the research project. So by the end of July, we will publish the results and you'll be notified. The researchers could access the Limit Labs between September and December. So before accessing the Limit Labs, you will need to sign a contract agreement, roughly between August and September. But it could be even October, depending on your period of access to the Limit Lab. Within 1 month after the end of the Transnational Access, you need to briefly report your activities. And after that, as I said, based on the rules of each Limit Lab, you will be reimbursed of the expenses incurred. So about the proposal submission, on the project website, within the page that is dedicated to the Transnational Access, you can find the description of all the 17 infrastructure that are available and all the information for applying for the open call, including the application template to describe the project that you would like to carry on in our infrastructures. And it's mandatory to use this template and to follow the proposed structure for describing your research proposal. So if you won't use this template, the application cannot be considered valid. This template consists of 5 sections: objectives and ambition, methodology, impact, dissemination and valorization, and researchers' expertise. So for each of these sections, you will find some information about what you should write in that section. So in the first section, objective and ambition, you should describe your project, its objectives, and how your project goes beyond the state of the art. About the methodology, it's important to answer to all this topic. So you need to describe the subjects that are required to carry on your research, the procedures, the activities, and the processes that you will need to implement, the tools and the services you will need to use, and the data that you're going to collect and how you're going to collect them. And finally, the physical location and the necessary infrastructures to implement your research. Based on the methodology that you want to carry on, you can choose up to 3 Limit Labs that provide the services and the tools that you need. So it's important that before filling in this template, you have a look on our website at all the information that are available and see which Limit Lab have all the services and tools you need. The third section of the application template is about the impact. So you will need to describe the expected impact of your project and the results that you expect to obtain. The fourth section is about the dissemination and the valorization of the results. So in this case, you will need to describe how you plan to disseminate and communicate the results you will obtain, and to which audience, and how you plan to maximize the impact of your dissemination activities. Finally, it's requested that you describe the researcher's background and the previous experiences of the team that is applying for the transnational access. The number of pages that are suggested in each section of this template are only indicative, but it's important that the document doesn't exceed the total number of 10 pages, excluding the references. So this was the template that you need to use to describe your research proposal. Now my colleague from BI Labs will show you the online application toolkit that you will need to use to submit your application. Elias, if you want, you can start.
Thank you, Giulia. So let's briefly present the application toolkit. This is the online platform from which users can actually submit their applications for transnational access. The online platform is hosted within the VITALISE website, and the URL is vitalize-project.eu_open-calls. Now, this is the first page of the application form. In this first page, users are requested to fill in some administrative information. Firstly, applicants are requested to fill in information about their affiliation, name of affiliation, address, country, and domain name, also website as well. Then the users select the number of applicants that will be working on this research proposal. As Julia mentioned, we can have up to 5 applicants. And for every applicant, we require the following information: name, gender, nationality, email, telephone number, and position in the affiliated institution. Now, you can see that if we select more than 1 applicants, we need to fill in the same information for the second applicant as well. Now, after filling in the administrative information, users click on the next button, and the second page of the application form is actually the place where users select the infrastructure of their preference. Users can select up to 3 infrastructures in order of preference. Let's, for example, select 1 infrastructure. We also need to define whether we have used this infrastructure before and whether we have access to an equivalent installation in our country, these 2 questions. And then we need to specify the services that we would be willing to use from this infrastructure. If you see that each infrastructure has different services, so we can select the different services that we request, that we would like to use from this infrastructure. The same goes for the second infrastructure or the third infrastructure of our preference. Then the user confirms if he or she for each infrastructure, users can see the full list of services, of course, as I mentioned here. And then the user confirms if he or she wants to be reallocated in if needed in a similar infrastructure of VITALISE. We also ask for information on the number of days the applicant wants access to the infrastructure, and then preferably starting period, which is from the beginning of September until the end of November. Finally, users are, after submitting the next, clicking on the next button, users are requested to fill in information about the project, about their proposal actually. So we require title, acronym, abstract, and here we upload the description, the doc or the ODT file that Julia presented before, and you can also download the documents from here. You users upload here the files and agree with the VITALISE privacy policy, have an overview here of the submitted information, and then finally submit the application. So this is actually the process for submitting an application online. There are 3 steps, 3 easy steps actually, and this concludes actually the application toolkit procedure. So Julia.
Thank you, Ilias. I will share my screen again. Okay. So as we were saying, I will repeat it, but the deadline for applying for the first open call is the 30th of April. So in May, the evaluation process will begin, starting with the check of the eligibility criteria that are described in this slide. So to apply to the open call, you can be an academia researcher, an industrial researcher, an entrepreneur, or a living lab practitioner. You must work in the European Union or in a state that is associated with the Horizon 2020 program. We will also accept researchers that are working in other countries, but the number of accepted applications from teams working in other countries could not exceed the 20% of the total of accepted applications. Moreover, you must apply for a living lab in a country other than the country where you're working. And the minimum level of education required is a master's degree, and you must be fluent in the English language. Finally, you must be able to disseminate the results of your research. And there is only one exception to this last eligibility criteria. So you could be authorized not to disseminate in case it goes against the legitimate interests of your organization, but you will need to certify it. So if the application will pass the eligibility check, your research proposal will be sent to the research infrastructure leader of the chosen infrastructure for the feasibility check. So they will check if they can provide the required access, if they can provide the required services, and in case there is the need to recruit some subjects, they will check if they are able to recruit the right people. So in case your project will not be considered eligible or not feasible for all the infrastructures that you have chosen, you will be notified. And if it is appropriate, you will also receive some suggestions to apply for the second or the third call. The third step of the evaluation process is the scientific evaluation. We will create an evaluation board that is composed of 3 people, 2 external independent experts and 1 expert within the consortium. And the criteria with which they will evaluate the soundness of the research proposals are the following. So scientific and technical quality of the proposal, quality of the work plan, scientific qualification of the team, innovation, collaboration with international or national partners or industry, and training of young scientists. It's important to notice that the purpose of the evaluation, we will give priority to researchers that have never used the infrastructure before, or that are working in countries where no equivalent research infrastructures exist. Moreover, we require an open access policy to the data collected. So this will also be a very important priority criteria. And there will be exception mainly for industrial research study and entrepreneurs, but the total amount of research proposal that won't allow the open access and also the dissemination and the valorization cannot exceed the 20% of the total of the approved projects. Finally, priority will be given to applicants who are not linked with the VITALISE consortium. So application coming from applicants from institutions that are linked to the consortium and that are considered eligible, feasible, and with a scientific evaluation above the threshold will be accepted only if there are still free transnational access positions available after accepting all other successful applications. So by the end of July, we will publish the ranking list and we will notify the applicants. And as I mentioned before, the applicants will be redirected to the research infrastructure leader to organize the access to the living labs. If your application will be selected, you will have to fulfill the following obligations. So you need to have an active contract with your home institution during the period of transnational access. You'll need to complete a 2-day training session and to fill in a questionnaire before starting the transnational access and at the end of it. Also, before accessing the living lab, you will need to sign a contract agreement and a data protection notice. While at the end of the transnational access, you'll need to allow open access to the collected data. Moreover, you will need to anonymize the data within 6 months and also disseminate the results that you will obtain. As I already said, both for the open access policy and for dissemination, that there will be some exceptions. But we will evaluate case by case your request. About the fast training program that you will need to attend, this could be done remotely or during your physical in-person transnational access. It will last 2 days. And you will have the chance to learn more about the living lab methodologies, the services. And so, as I was saying, this fast training program will last 2 days, and you could learn more about the living lab methodologies and the services, the ethical procedure, and the panel management of the living labs. About the dissemination, as I said, this is an obligation of the applicants. So you will always need to mention the Horizon 2020 program when disseminating, and we also strongly encourage to publish papers describing the data sets that are generating during the access period. In this case, you need to submit your paper to the research infrastructure leader before the submission, so that if needed, changes can be done before the publication. So lastly, within 1 month after the ending of the access to the living lab, you will need to write a short document to report the work done and to fill in a satisfaction questionnaire. After that, you will be reimbursed of your expenses based on the administrative procedure of each Limit Lab. So in the next few days, we are going to make some small changes to the application manual. So please always remember to check if you have the last updated version of the manual. And again, if you want to stay updated, subscribe to our newsletter to receive relevant information about the open call, such as the manual updates. And this was all. Thank you for your attention. Now, if you have any question, again, please write them in the chat or raise your hand to speak. Thank you. Please, Sylvie.
Yes, good morning. Here it's the morning, very early in the morning. So I just want to know if it's mandatory to write the application in English or another language could be also used.
No, it's mandatory to use the English language to write the application.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question. When I go to the application forms, I realize that we cannot go from one page to the other before completing some field. It's not possible to allow the researcher that want to apply to go on from one page to the other and just ask for the requirement of the field at the hand, because they can be interested to see what is the application.
Okay, maybe I should answer here. There are some obligatory information that we need to fill in the different steps. So this is why we ask to fill in this information. But I mean, for the next open calls, we could consider using a one page where users could see all the information in one page.
Anyway, the application toolkit is explained in the application manual. So there is a section dedicated to the application toolkit where you can find all the screen that you will see while applying.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no more questions, we can close the webinar. And as I already said, this is registered. So in a few days, you will find it on our YouTube channel. And so looking forward to read your applications. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Julia.
Julia.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.